Our gospel text from today is taken from the Gospel of John chapter 6 verses 1 to 15 and is the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish, in which 12 baskets are gathered. All the numbers are the same in all the 4 Gospels, and it is the only miracle which Jesus worked that is found in all the 4 Gospels. There is no other miracle of Jesus found also in Mark, Matthew and Luke, and as we will read today in the Gospel of John, then the feeding of the 5,000 with 5 loaves, 2 fish, in which 12 baskets are gathered. And even though the evangelists, the synoptic Gospels narrate it, Mark narrates it quite differently from the synoptic Gospels. It is only in Mark that we are told that it is the festival of the Passover just before that festival. The Passover was a festival in which it was celebrated that God had redeemed his people, that God had led his people from captivity into freedom. This is what was celebrated at the Passover. So when John mentions that the Passover was at hand, it was near the festival of the Passover, he is saying that like God did in the Old Testament, Jesus will do now. He will lead the people from captivity into freedom. And even as Jesus begins to teach the crowds grow. And Philip, one of the disciples, begins to get a little anxious when he comes to Jesus. And Jesus asks him to test him, because Jesus knows already what he is going to do. And Jesus says to Philip, how are we going to feed this large multitude of people? And Philip responds by saying that even if we had 200 denarii, which was close to 7 months' wages for a laborer, we would not be able to feed them with even a small morsel of bread to eat. And Jesus then tells Philip to go and find out how much they have. And they bring a young lad, and John is the only one who mentions barley loaves. The lad has barley loaves and 2 small fish. And for the Lord, it is enough. The Lord does not need more. The Lord needs us to give even the little we have, which he will multiply and make enough for multitudes. And the Lord orders that the people sit down. And even as they sit down in an orderly manner, it is only in the Gospel of John, in the Synoptic Gospels, the Lord says the blessing. In the Gospel of John, he gives thanks. This verb to give thanks is translated in Greek as Eucharistein. In other words, here in chapter 6 already, Jesus is celebrating the Eucharist with this large multitude, and that's why John uses the verb, Jesus looked up to heaven and gave thanks, or celebrated the Eucharist. The second point of difference at the time of the feeding is that while in Matthew, Mark and John, Jesus gives the bread to the disciples to give to the people, here in the Gospel of John, he gives the bread to the people himself in remembrance of what he will do on the cross. He will give his life for the whole world. And this 5,000 now represents the whole of humanity. 5,000 is a symbolic number. Jesus will not restrict himself. Jesus will not restrict his life and his giving to a mere 5,000. He will give his life as a ransom for the whole of humanity, for the whole of the cosmos. And even after all of them have eaten and eaten their fill, they collect what remains after the feeding, and they find that there are 12 baskets left over. 12 is a symbolic number which refers back to the 12 tribes of Israel and which reflects to the 12 disciples and apostles of Jesus, and today which reflects to each one of us who claims to be a disciple of Jesus. Today we are called to feed that multitude with the bread of life. Today we are called to take our meager resources to the Lord and to give it to Him generously, confident in the knowledge that He will multiply and make it sufficient not only for 5,000 but for the whole of humanity. Unfortunately today we are living in a world in which millions of our people go to bed hungry. And there are others who have more than their fill. The gospel text of today and the feeding of today is calling us in a tangible manner to share our bread with the hungry, to clothe those who are naked, to visit those who are sick, to reach out to those who are poor. When we do that, then the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 with a mere 5 loaves and 2 fish is a miracle that is repeated again and again and again. Will you, like Jesus, reach out to at least one hungry person today?